The following podcast on the Your Own Pay Podcast Network will contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised. More information about this episode can be found at yourownpay.com.
It's Damashe and Michael, just talking tech.
So we're going to start the last show. We're going to start this show like we started the last show, talking about editors. So you mentioned you had a good time kind of breezing through
64.
Yeah, so when I edited 63, which I honestly think came out pretty good.
Yeah.
But Isotope cleaned up pretty well so I did not use Alphonic at all for 63. I did a complete edit in Reaper.
You brought DM63 into Reaper. I imagine using by default the project you're using right now or your template or?
What did I use? No, I did not use a template. I actually just added it. I started from scratch. This was just fresh straight. Everything was scratch. So I brought in our 2 tracks, edited everything, applied the Isotope noise removal to both tracks individually, and then did the jingles, dropped the intro and the outro in, and rendered the project out to I rendered it out as a WAV file, and I actually used the tool from Marco Arment, Forecast, to add the chapter marks. Well, so I actually added the markers in the project as I was editing. So I added a marker and then, use, I think it's Command-Shift-M or whatever the current keyboard shortcut is in Reaper to edit/add
Shift-M.
a new, and put titles on the markers. So when I exported with the markers included as a WAV file, brought that into Forecast and let it run to compress it down to an MP3. It also added the chapter marks in at the same time, which was cool.
Yeah. And then if you wanted to take it to the next level, which so I love the listeners and I appreciate you, but I am not extreme enough to drop it into iCloud in the Castros folder and listen to it first. I will listen to it when it goes live is usually what I do. I am subscribed to the podcast. So if there's any errors in it when I'm done editing, I do sincerely apologize now and hopefully, it makes sense. But that's pretty much the same workflow that I have, except for I'm not using Isotope. I should think about that. I edit the project in Reaper, render it out. Well, I edit the project. I get done with that. I have you on one track and I have me on the other track. And what I actually do, and I told Damashe this, and I think he's using it too, is I pan me hard left, 100% left. So I'm only coming out of the left speaker in my headphones. I pan Damashe hard right. So he's always coming out of the right speaker. And then I zoom into between 7 and 9% because then I can quickly scroll through with the left and right arrow keys and just scrub right through. And I just hold the right arrow key and listen to us as chipmunks all the way through the episode until I hear a point where I need to edit, and then I'll stop, I make the edit, and then I will continue on. And if I need to make a finer detailed edit, I'll zoom out to typically I can do it at 16 to 20% is where I'll zoom out to. And then when I'm done with that, I will throw the broadcast chain on both of our tracks is what I've started doing. And I got that from Restash. I'll link to it at yourownpay.com/DM67. And then I will add the jingle track if it's not already there. I change that to four channels in the input-output options. I set receives from tracks 1 and 2 to track 3. And I'll explain why I do that here in a minute. I think we've talked about I know we've talked about this in the past. But then I go add the recomp compression tool to track 3, which is jingles. And then I set it to probably 25 dB, negative 25 dB, not positive. That'd be disaster. And then I set to detect from auxiliary input in recomp. And that's what pushes the music down when I'm feeling ambitious. Now 64, all these numbers throw me off. I did not do the compression thing because it like with 63, it worked out to where we really didn't need to push the audio down. But if I'm using a longer form intro, or if we're talking softly towards the end, then I'll use that compression tool to compress track 3. Then I select all 3 tracks. I go to track 1, I hold shift and I press down arrow to get 2 and 3 selected as well. I'll render and I change from the render dialog box, the very first drop down in there, I forget the exact name, but I tell it to not just render the project, but to render all selected tracks from master. So it gets all of the processing on the tracks, and then I choose a directory, and that gives me 3 different WAV files that I'll drop into the Alphonic folder in Google Drive. I'll jump over to Alphonic, and I process it as a multi-track input because Damashe told me about that a month and a half ago, I think, and now I'm obsessed with processing audio. But next, because it just comes out cleaner.
It does. Oh, I forgot a very important thing. The reason you guys don't hear Damashe on your right and me on your left is I bring the panning back to 5% left and right respectively for the 2 of us, because that would probably piss people off if I left it like that. It would.
But then that gives me an MP3 file, then that goes into Google Drive, and then it gets uploaded to Pinecast. So
there it is. There's the process. Yeah, I'm gonna the multi-track solution in Alphonic is great. And yeah, it cleans up stuff much because it's able to focus on each individual track's, imperfections versus trying to fix it across one single file that has both of us on it. So it definitely works out better. Probably not going to do the chapter markers because I thought about it after I did it. I was like, the problem that this generates for us now is that I have a pretty straightforward way of dropping in chapter marks. I have not played around with using markers and setting chapters in Alphonic.
Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm still here. I stopped because I was like, maybe I muted for a second and yelled at the kids, and so I might have missed you saying that you were doing chapters in Alphonic. And I was like, wait a minute, did Mike just explain how he did that?
No, I didn't. Well, in your audio, I'm glad we're recording locally. That's something else important to let people know is we do both record locally. If you guys haven't captured onto that over our previous talks, because Damashe's audio has cut out a little bit, but I've gotten 98% of what he's saying. It's either his internet or my internet, but the fact is we're going to have clean recordings on both ends that you guys should not hear any of that internet noise that comes through. And then you were talking and then you went quiet and I'm like, shit, did my internet just drop? Adding chapter markers, if you just add the markers and then you render in Reaper and you check that box that says include chapter markers, I forget exactly where it is, but it's a drop down. Then when you take the WAV files and you throw them into Alphonic, you don't have to do anything else because Alphonic will automatically turn whatever markers are in there into chapter marks. Now, the gotcha with that is sometimes I'll be editing an episode and I'll walk away and I'll just hit M with nothing on there because that sets to marker number 1, because that'll get me a place to go back to if, let's say, I don't know, Reaper closes or something like that. Like usually it's not an issue, but it's a safety precaution for me.
Yeah, I'll do the same.
And if you don't delete that marker, then that will also render out as a chapter called marker 1.
Yeah. What I tend to do with markers, because I tend to set them quite a bit too for the same reason. Like if I'm stopping editing for a second, even though typically when if you close Reaper and reopen it back to the project, it puts you where you were. But just in case it doesn't, I don't want to have to figure out where I was. So I drop markers. What I did with 63 specifically, because it was the first time I've thought about doing markers in a while or chapter markers in a while. And the episode itself just kind of lended itself very well to chapter markers, actually. All unintentionally. Probably sounded like we did it on purpose, but we didn't. Is I went back before I rendered out the project. I went back and checked all markers to make sure that I didn't have any of those extraneous markers laying around that were just there for I may need to come back here to see if I need to edit this. Let's see how the conversation went. And then do I need to take this out or not type of markers. So I did do that before rendering out the project.
and you can skip through markers, and I promise we'll be off Reaper here shortly with the semicolon and apostrophe, semicolon to go back in markers and apostrophe to go forward in markers.
Amazing feature. Absolutely amazing. I love it.
So new toys, Damashe.
Absolutely, man. So I ordered myself. So just to cover this, because it's going to come up at some point in conversation. So we'll say it here now. So we'll have to try to remember when the hell I bought something. So I bought Tia a iPhone 12 Pro Max. That is a mouthful still.
Yeah, it is.
She's got the big ass phone. All right, there we go. We're going to just call it the big ass phone.
And I will throw it in there. Mallory got the 12 Pro, not the 12 Pro Max, because she said it's too big for her. Because I wanted the 11. I was tired of this half-assed 10 phone not working right, and so I have her 11, and she has the 12 Pro now. Which, oh man, I love the way that feels in your hand.
Man, so we're gonna come back to actually, let's talk about that now, right? So I called Mike. So I ordered Tia's 12 Pro Max, and I called Mike and I told Mike, "Hey, Mike, I just got Tia 12 Pro Max. So like, if you're looking for a deal, T-Mobile has some stuff going on right now that possibly might help out." Because I knew Mike was having issues with Face ID just not working at all. Like it's broken. It's not he's doing anything wrong. Like it literally would not activate on his 10R. So his 10. So we think
not
something
10.
with the thing or whatever, the secure enclave or something. But anyway, my thought was, I'm going to upgrade her phone and I'm going to take her 10R. Because I'm not going to get a new phone. And I said, well, maybe Mike may want to consider doing that. It turns out Mallory was actually interested in the 12 Pro. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to do that then.
Yep.
I get her phone. I just got to go on a quick side rant. I'm sorry. This is an $1,100 phone. You understand what I'm saying? I could actually go buy the M1 Mac Mini I want for less than what this phone costs. Right? Mm-hmm. They leave the phone on my front porch and not even up against the screen door because we got like one of the storm doors, whatever. It's not a screen door. It's a storm door, I think, because it's got glass. Yeah. So, whatever you call those outside doors, whatever the proper term is. I grew up in the country. We always called them screen doors, even if there was no screen. It's still a screen. They didn't even tuck it inside of the door. They didn't leave it up next to the door. It's right out there at the end of my porch. Right? A little ramp that comes up to the porch. Just sitting there. No knock on the door. And we all were sitting in the living room, actually, at the time that it was delivered, right? People may be wondering, well, how did you know it was out there? Because I got a notification from the deliveries app that says, your iPhone, what did I title it? Whatever, iPhone Max has been delivered. I was like, oh, okay. And my sincere hope was, maybe they did what I like for them to do, which is go tuck it around by the side door up under the carport. Because then at least it's less visible. Nope, not there. So go out the front door and it's out there on the end of the porch. I'm like, there was no knock because we were all sitting right there in the living room. So it wasn't even a knock and leave like they do sometimes, which is cool. If you knock and then you leave, it's okay. I'm coming. And you don't want to stand around because it's cold. Nope, right. You just leave a $1,100 phone on my front porch. So I didn't.
It's like Easter egg hunting, though.
I didn't have to sign for it. Nothing, right? No knock on the door, no nothing. Now, look, it's a $1,100 phone, man. What if somebody just walks off with it? Who is the burden of proof on that I did not get this phone?
That's a valid point. That is a very
That's the problem, right? It's not just that the phone gets stolen, but at this point, it is not activated on anybody's line. Because it is a brand new phone that has not yet been activated. So there's no Find My iPhone. There's none of that stuff available to me at all to track down this phone. All is in the system for T-Mobile is the tracking number for me for UPS, and then all that's in their system is the IMEI number and serial number of the device that they ship to me. But I don't have any of this information yet. Also, there's no Find My iPhone. There's no track it down by anything because there's not a SIM card in it that's activated. So if someone walks off with that phone, who is the burden of proof that one, I did not get this phone and go sell it on eBay and now I'm trying to scam T-Mobile? No, that's not what I did. But I have to prove that I did not do that I literally did not get this phone. So what am I doing for the next 2 weeks? I'm running around filing police reports. I'm on and off the phone with T-Mobile customer care. I'm talking to the police. I'm talking to everybody. I'm talking to UPS. I'm doing all these things, right? Somebody has walked off with my phone when they sold it for probably half its value on the street and is happily basically doing the I got money in my pocket dance while I'm sitting here stuck. Not to mention that I'm still on the hook for paying for the phone that I don't have.
But you got your phone.
But I did get the phone. I had to go on that side rant because that is super annoying. Now, whenever I have ordered stuff directly from Apple, directly from the Apple store, like they make you sign for it. Like, you know, I don't know what they're doing nowadays because I haven't bought anything direct from Apple, but that's just annoying, man. But no, none of that did happen. None of that happened at all. So I get the phone, bring it in, open up the box. First, it comes in like this super thin package box. First of all, like
that was my first thought when Mallory got hers. Is she's like, feel how small this box is. I'm like, that's smaller than I was thinking it would have been for a 12 Pro. A lot smaller.
And then I open up the package box and I look at the phone box and it's like, whoa, this is super flat. Like I know they took out the charging block or whatever, but geez, this is like a super thin box. Mm-hmm. Open up the box, take the phone out, and my first thought was not that, whoa, that's a big ass phone. My first thought was, I can hold this. This is comfortable. I like this. Yeah. I should get me one. Because it really does feel nice in the hand. Like I honestly don't want it. Like, look, the 12 Pro Max is big. It is a big phone. It is comfortable for me to hold, but I don't have small hands. I would not want that phone, but it did make me think. It started me down the path of, I could go get a 12 mini because that's what I've really wanted. Or if this LiDAR thing plays out to be really super nice, maybe I'll just get the 12 Pro because it's not as big as I thought it was. Like, so Mike, you had a 10 and you now have the 11.
Yes.
Wait, no, you have the 11 Pro, right?
No.
Nope, the 11?
The 11.
Okay.
Yes.
So it is the same size as the 10R.
Yep.
So
maybe it is an 11 Pro. Oh, the 10R maybe, because it is slightly bigger than the 10 was. It's slightly bigger, but noticeably bigger.
Yeah, I got you. So it is an 11 then, which is the same size as the 10R. So
right.
This 12 Pro Max, which I believe is 6.7 inches, feels better to hold in my hand than the 10R, which is like 6.1 inch screen. And it's all because of the sides.
It is, and that makes a big difference. The flat sides versus the curved sides. You don't realize how much of a difference it makes until you actually hold it for sure.
So yeah, super nice phone. I think this is they may do something different in 5 years, but right now I feel like this is the best physical design of an iPhone that they've had since the 5 or the 4 series. I told Tia, like, it's not even features. It's not any functionality in the phone. It's like, I want to get one just because it feels nice.
It's the form factor.
Yes.
Like it is super nice. And it's a big enough design change that it's like, hey, this is almost like a new phone. There for a while, when you upgraded your iPhone, it's like, okay, it's just another iPhone.
Yeah, you got to look for the features to figure out where what you just got, right? It's based on features, or does it really feel faster? Exactly. Whereas this feels like a whole different thing. It is a very, very nice physical design.
So you got Tia the 12R Pro Max single whatever.
All of the caveat, all of the letters, all of the things. She's got the plus phone. We're gonna just call it the plus.
Right. The plus.
She's got the iPhone
and
plus.
You got the 10R. Is that right? You went from the 8 to the 10.
Yes, I went from the 8 to the 10R, which is only a processor generation jump for me, but it is noticeably faster than what the 8 was. Face ID has not been a difficult. I gotta say so. I used the Pixel 4 off and on this year. I actually used it as my phone, like with my SIM card in it for a while, almost a month this year. Actually, the only reason I took it out is because I got a notification from the insurance carrier that, so we're about to change your insurance package over to cover the Pixel. And I was like, no, man, hold on. I got an iPhone in a box over here, bro. Wait a minute.
Oh, good old Assyria.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Now, the nice thing is, I don't have to jump through any hoops to get my insurance transferred to a new device, but I didn't want to have to fight my way back to getting the Apple Care / Insurian insurance that I had on the iPhone. So that is actually from early 2020. What took me back to the iPhone as quick as it did was because of that, because I had just been using my watch and the Pixel. But anyway, Using Face Unlock, because I don't know the official Google term for it, because I think Face ID is actually a copyrighted trademark thing for Apple.
I think actually Google calls it Face Unlock.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Not Face ID though, because you're right. Face ID is Apple branded.
So using Face Unlock on the Pixel was cool. Apple's is better. And I only say that because there are certain angles where I could unlock the iPhone where I did not expect it to unlock. And I know for certain that they were not possible with the Pixel. There was a lot more, we couldn't see you, please, try again with the Pixel. Whereas I'm really not getting that at all with the iPhone, unless it's me not really thinking about Face ID, because occasionally I forget that I have to do Face ID to unlock Capital One or something. So I got the phone at a weird ass angle. It was like, Face ID was not able to recognize. I was like, yeah, not Touch ID, Face ID. Hold on, you actually got to look at it, man. You got to look at it.
But the setup process for the 4 was a lot more smoother than I think Apple's was, because Apple's is more involved.
Yes.
But that handoff for that is that Apple can recognize you from different angles, whereas the 4 has to be looking right at you from my observations.
Yeah, I would agree with exactly what you just said, because the setup for the 4 was crazy easy. I remember doing
it's it. You're already done.
Yeah. And I had seen Tia set up, Face ID on her 10R or whatever, because I watched her do that when she first got it. And I set it up on the Pixel 4. I was like, okay, I'm done.
That's it. There's no
more.
Man,
she still would have been doing her head in some weird circle motion or some shit.
Right.
It's okay.
So your device upgrades went well. That's good. And then right before we got on this call, you're like, something just arrived 30 minutes ago. So what's going on with that?
All right. So I have now gotten a new Apple Watch. I have the Series 6 40 millimeter, which I believe is the same one you have, Mike.
Yep. Until Mallory steals it from me, because I ordered her the blue 12 Pro and I have the blue watch, so I'm waiting for her to steal my watch from me and give me her 44, which I've got mixed feelings about that, because I think the 44 is just going to be too pretty, but that's besides the point.
Interesting. I didn't think those blues matched though.
I don't know if
they don't.
I have a case on my watch. They don't.
No.
They're both called Pacific Blue, so I assume they match.
Are they?
See, that's what happens when you have a blind person.
I thought it was just blue for the watch.
No, they're Pacific Blue.
Okay. Interesting.
Anyways, so you got the 640 millimeter.
Yep, I got mine in black, or whatever they're calling black this year for aluminum devices. I don't know, but that's the one that I got. So that arrived today.
Have you set it up yet?
I was actually in the process of setting it up when you called me. I was actually in the watch screen that was did you want to do emergency? This is how emergency contact works or whatever. And I was then Mike called, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot we're supposed to be recording. I ain't paying attention to nothing.
Well, and I texted you right before that. I'm like, I'm going to be a minute, because Mallory called me right as I was jumping on Source Element Source Connect. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be a minute, because I was fighting with the washer all morning. And then I got on there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, he's not here. I bet he forgot. So I called you.
Yeah, so I have it set up. It is currently syncing. I'm assuming that it is still syncing, even though the phone is in here and the watch is in another room, but they're both on the same Wi-Fi. So let's hope that works out.
It does say keep your phone and watch close to each other.
Does it?
Yeah.
When it's syncing, once it's done, once you're past the setup, and it's you can now use your iPhone normally.
Maybe I'm forgetting.
It says that when you first start, but
I think you're right.
When it says, okay, your watch is set up and is now syncing, you can now use your iPhone normally. That means to me, okay, well, I'm going to put the watch back on the charger, because it only had 33%, and I'm going to walk off with my phone because I'm using it normally.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, I'll just reset.
So with the 38, you still have your 38 millimeter,
42.
right?
Yes, I do still have my 40. I actually have it on right now still, the 42 millimeter watch. So I went from the 42 millimeter Series 3, which is actually the last 42 millimeter version that they made, down to the 40 millimeter Series 6. So I know I'm going to see a major jump in performance for sure.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the watch once you actually get it up and running, because it's a big difference.
For me, it's only slightly smaller than the current watch that I have, but kind of along the lines of what I think Michael's thinking was, which is I don't need the bigger screen. I don't benefit from the bigger screen. I still get all of the same faces and all of that stuff. So there's not any.
You get infograph now.
Yes.
You can help me learn how to use infograph because
yes,
I have it, but I don't use it, but I want to use it.
But I get like there's no difference in the faces. There's no like, oh well, this version of the watch you only get 3 complications, and on the bigger screen you get 7. Like, nah, there's none of that crap going on. So for me, it was like I've talked to enough people that have used 40 millimeter watches since they went to that form factor or that screen size, including Michael with his Series 6, to be like the battery life is going to be pretty comparable to what I'm used to right now. It's probably actually going to be a little bit better considering my battery is like 3 years old. But it's comparable. Like the usage is comparable, and Mike kind of does a lot of the same things I do when it comes to charging anyway, which is like, okay, I'm going to take a shower, it's on the charger. If I have
that's really all you have to do. Like if you just throw it on the charger it charges fast, even when using, just your standard USB cable. Because our USB, so we have a power strip that has 2 USB ports at the end of it. And I always have a watch charger and my iPhone charger plugged into it. And literally I can just walk up to the desk and take my watch off, throw it on the charger. Let's say it has 25%. By the time I get out of the shower, now I'll admit sometimes I like longer showers, but by the time I get out of the shower, it's at minimum 50%. And so that's super nice just to get it charged up.
I'll do that. Also will usually like charge it. If I tend to check my best habit to just check my watch battery first thing in the morning. Cause I know that first 30 minutes or so that I'm up, the watch is not really going to benefit me in any sort of way. So it's good to throw it on the charger right then. Cause I don't immediately jump out of bed and do exercise. I should probably, but I don't.
Now, if you start using the sleep feature, I don't know if this is something you've thought about doing or not, but if you do that, when your watch gets below 29 or gets below 30%, it will tap you about 45 minutes is how I have mine set up. So it alerts you 45 minutes beforehand. Hey, I don't have enough battery to guarantee that your alarm's going to go off in the morning. And then you can go throw it on the charger, which I find that to be very convenient.
I tried it out during the beta period, but I have not used it since iOS 14 and watchOS 7 were released. I probably will try it again with this watch. But yeah, so didn't need the bigger screen. Battery life is comparable, and it saved me some money on the purchase as well because I also bought Tia a 44 millimeter blue watch. I bet Mike is wishing he would have bought that blue watch. But yeah, so I also bought her the 44 mil, which is strangely back ordered or something. Like when I ordered it online, it was like, oh, it's in stock, ready to ship. So I ordered it, and now it tells me it's on hold. So, whatever. I guess she'll get it at some point in the future, hopefully. They haven't billed me for it yet, so that's sort of fortunate.
That's good. Yeah.
Although I think I might actually feel more comfortable if they actually already billed me for it. Then it means, okay, there's no goofy glitch hanging up the system somewhere that your, representatives can't see.
Yeah. They might. There is a website, and I forget the URL, but you can go and see what is in fact in stock and when it's estimated, when the products that aren't in stock are estimated to ship. If I can remember the URL, I'll get it to you.
Okay, good deal.
But it's handy. That's why we went from one color to another color for Mallory's 12 Pro. We skipped over that whole debacle where T-Mobile had over $700 of mine just hanging out in limbo because they didn't know what phone they were going to send me. And then, fun times. Because Mallory got a 256 because 64 gig wasn't going to ship till the middle of February. And I'm like, really? I don't want to wait until February.
128.
Is it 128? Yeah.
Yep, that's the base because that's what Tia got was the 128.
So 128 was going to ship until February, and I'm like, I don't want to wait until then, and so we just doubled.
I was going to say she should have got the gold because for some reason I thought that would have been the one sold out. But that was the 12 Pro Max. Right. Maybe that's not selling as much as the 12 Pro is. I would imagine, but yeah, they had all of those models in stock, I chose the 128 for her phone, mostly because her 10R was 64 gigs, and like she wasn't anywhere near pushing up against that storage allotment. So I was like, there's no point in me spending an extra $1,000, maybe. I mean, excuse me. I'm sorry. Apple is outrageous with their storage costs, but not that outrageous. There's no reason spending like an extra $100 for another, 128 gigs of storage that she's really not going to use.
And see, that's the way we were kind of feeling about it. And then we had the shipping issue, and I said, you know what, let's just pay the extra $100.
I absolutely would have did the same thing you did. I absolutely would have done the same thing you did.
Well, because it has a higher resale value in the future too if we decide to resell it. And I get an extra 128 gigabytes because we all know that when the 13 comes out, I probably won't end up with that phone.
Yeah, good point. Good point. See, Mike was future-proofing himself is what he was doing, so he can load it up with download all the podcasts now. It's like I don't even have to stream them. So, Mike, you mentioned to me earlier, just kind of in an offhanded way about you hate power surges, and my response to you was, yeah, I know. That's why I have spent so much money on freaking surge protectors over the years. So what's going on with you? And then I want to, one, know what that was about. Two, what have you done about it? And then maybe we can share with people kind of what we have purchased.
So definitely. Yesterday, we had high winds, 40 miles an hour was what it was typically blowing, with wind gusts between 70 and 100 miles per hour.
Oh, man, that's kite weather,
I know, right? Compared to you.
That's flying kites, man. Let's go. Let's go fly some kites, dude.
Good time.
Wait, did your kids ever do that?
No. I don't think they have experienced kites. Man, I did kites.
Did you get to experience kites?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, like we would go to the beach and fly kites all the time when I was younger. Ooh, a lot of other things happen on the beach too that I can't talk about here.
Yeah, so their kids probably want a drone. Like, man, nobody got time to be running around with no string tied to my hand. What the hell are you doing, man? Give me a drone.
Give me a drone that has a camera on the end of it. So yesterday we had wind gusts, and it wasn't bad. But at 11:30, I woke up because I'm an old man. I go to bed around 9ish. Talked about that on a previous episode, 63 actually. And I woke up at like 11:30, and we have a dehumidifier in our room because of moisture issues that we've had. And when the dehumidifier turns off, it beeps 4 times, and then when it turns on, it beeps twice. So I woke up and all this beeping was going on. What the hell is going on here? And what was going on was we were losing power. Power went out and came back on, and went out and came back on. Did that probably 6 or 7 times from when I woke up. And who knows how much it did it before I woke up to it beeping. And then the power went out, and I woke up at 6 this morning and the power was still out. And I'm like, man, this sucks, but whatever. Life happens. Get on. It's not like I need the lights to be able to get on with my day. The only bad part about it is I had to wait till later to get coffee. So I, got up and, long story short, went and threw a load of laundry in the washer when the power came back on, and I hit the power button to start the washer. Nothing
happened.
Nothing. I was pausing for a second, got some silence there. Nothing. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe a breaker tripped or something. So I unplugged the washer and I moved it into the kitchen. That was an experience of its own. And I plugged the washer in, and nothing. And I'm like, oh no. So my first thought was, shit, that means that all those power surges last night blew up the dryer or the washer. So I turned to the dryer and I'm like, well, the dryer takes more power. Hopefully it's not gone too. And that worked just fine. I'm like, man, this is so weird. What is going on? So I called our insurance company to go over our renter's insurance options. And they're like, yeah, it's covered. You got a $500 deductible. I'm like, okay. So I Google I pull up the receipt, figure out the name of the washer and the brand and everything. And it's a GE washer, and I Google it, and the washer's like $569. I'm like, don't know if I want to do all that paperwork to save $69. Like, is it worth it at that point? And while
yes.
yeah, I know. While Googling,
you bought a new car.
While Googling it, it says, try this to reset the motor, because when there's when the washer detects either off balance or a power surge, you can reset the motor and it goes into a saving mode where you have to reset the motor. I'm like, okay, well, let's try that. And it didn't work the first time. I'm like, well, it looks like I'm buying a new washer. And then I jumped on another YouTube video that says you can do this to get into servicing mode. So I'm like, well, let's see if it'll go into servicing mode. Just see if that's an option. So I put it into servicing mode and I heard a little click. I'm like, well, it did something, so something's working there. And then I took it out of servicing mode after doing the reset again and turned it on, and it's running right now. But it made me think, because every other electronic in our house, except for the washer and dryer and coffee pot, are connected to power strips for the surge protection reason. Like, that's primarily the biggest reason. And because this house has one plug-in per room, and power strips give you more plugins. But aside from that, like, when I texted you that, I'm like, man, I don't want to put a power surge or a power strip for the washer, but maybe I need to look into like single outlet surge protectors for the washer, so this isn't an issue in the future. So that was my morning and why I sent you that message.
So we're gonna have to loop back and talk about this washer, because I may have to get one, not right now, but I feel like I'm not gonna make it through 2021 without getting a new washer. And mine is a Maytag, and yeah, this would be the second Maytag that I have to replace if I have to replace this one. So yeah, we'll talk about that on a different show, because Mike has a smart washer.
No, we don't.
Which I'm also. Oh, edit that out.
We had a smart washer, but Benjamin decided that he wanted to put something in the washer with, I think it was a belt on his pants, and it was a front loading washer, and it shattered the screen, the glass in the front. And so we had to replace it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we were not happy. That was not a good day. That was like a $1,200 washer.
I might still be upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole $1,100 phone thing. It's like, oh, you should get Tia this. What are you getting Tia for Valentine's Day? $1,100 phone.
Yeah. What do you mean?
What about Mother's Day? I bought an $1,100 phone. Go the hell away. And I got to buy a case.
What about her
screen protectors?
Ooh, did you get a case?
Not yet.
I will send you a link to a case that we got for Mallory's 12 Pro. I don't know. I will tell you how it is when it comes in, but it's by a company called Carved. Have you heard of them?
No.
It's got they're wooden cases, which is weird to me in my mind, but I'm excited to check it out. But they also have an option so you can add the MagSafe magnets to the back of the charger, or to the back of the case, for $3 more. And so I'm excited for checking it out, because it's different. It's not your plastic case that you normally get. So, and it's a small company, and I like supporting small companies. So,
oh man, have you been on that kick too? Like, I've kind of been on that kick, like where it's like I've been not intentionally so much, but it's like, oh, I see this as a smaller business. Like, yeah, let me go spend my money with them.
So, tell me your surge protection policies, or what's that word that I'm thinking of? It's not policies, but preventative actions that you're taking.
Practices.
Yes.
So, one thing I want to drop in is, you mentioned you don't want a whole power strip for where the washer goes. Yeah. So, what I have bought over the years, and I honestly, I really started buying these when we first had Mia. So, I had my first daughter. It's like, well, my kid's going to be crawling around eventually. Like, she wasn't crawling around yet, but eventually she's going to be crawling around. And I know what kids do, because 1, I used to be a kid. 2, I actually did this shit. And 3, I still see other kids do it, which is they're going to crawl around. They see this outlet thing over here and they're going to stick something in it.
I thought you were going to say, and 3, I still do it.
Oh, no. It only took me sticking a fucking, what did I stick in there? Like a butter knife into an outlet once. Yeah, no, I'll never, never again. Look, I tell you what, it didn't kill me. So there's that. And it also gave me a very healthy respect from a very young age for electricity. So I always make sure I know how to turn off the main breaker anywhere that I live because of that. So what I found, because like Mike, I didn't want power strips all over the place because they clutter up stuff, and that also just invites more shit for you to go poke at. But what I started buying is outlet covers. The idea came to me to look for this. So I'll tell you the quick story of how I got there. A friend of mine who already had kids said that they used to buy the outlet blockers, right? The little things that you stick into the outlet that covers it up so it can't be used. And I was like, oh, okay. So I go on Amazon. I'm looking around for these kind of things or whatever. And one of the things that came up, and here's where search not being as exact as you sometimes want it to be can be helpful. There was a thing called an outlet. I forget exactly what they call it. I would say if you search for outlet cover, and we will link to these in the show notes at yourownpay.com/DM67. But basically it's an outlet extender that also provides surge protection. That's basically what the point is. So you plug this thing into your outlet, and it usually has a ground, which has been the bane of my existence in this current house. But you plug it in, and the ones that I have bought have had either 3 outlets or 6 outlets on them, with 2 USB ports. And the reason I bought them is, number one, they provided surge protection for anything plugged into them, which was great. And 2, for the outlets that you're not using on the face of the device, you just slide a little cover over and it locks it, so you can't stick anything into it.
I could see how that would be useful for sure.
And 2 USB ports means I could always leave. At the time when I first started, adding these to my house or apartment at the time, I would have a lightning cable and a micro USB cable plugged into each outlet that I put in. And these are just covers, so you just plug it into your existing outlet. And I've seen several different versions of this. So there are some with more USB ports and only 2 outlets. There's some with, 6, like some of the ones I have to have 6 outlets on them. So it's like having a power strip, without the, extension of the cord and all of that, right? It just goes into the wall. So like what might be a good solution for you with the washer is, grab one of these, and there may even be one that just does exactly what you want it to do, which is just give me surge protection. Like you may not care about the USB, just plug it in. That's over the plug. It's not a cable dripping down, and just plug the washer in. And now it has surge protection. And I need to get some to go where my refrigerator is, because the things in my house that do not have either a power strip or one of these plug extenders with surge protection in them are the refrigerator, the coffee pot, and the washer and dryer. Everything else is either plugged into a power strip or plugged into one of these, wall covers that gives me surge protection. I did mistakenly, if you own your house, just a tip for people, if you own your home, or you're buying your home, I bought from what did I buy these from? I don't remember. OWC, I think, but they're sold all over the place. Some actual outlet replacements where they're different from the things that I bought, that I normally buy. I did not realize that these were outlet replacements. So you could completely replace your existing socket with this little box that connects into your wires and all of that and provides electricity to them. So be careful. And again, you should probably own your home if you're going to do this. But it replaces the entire outlet and gives you 2 outlets and a couple of USB ports, which also provide surge protection. So if you're a homeowner or in the process of buying a home, these might be good replacements for you to think about replacing your outlets with things that have USB ports, because that's primarily what I bought these for initially. But they're great. And then power strips. So I have 2 right now that are in use, because I tend to put these outlets everywhere. So I have a power strip over across the room from me that has the modem and the Google Wi-Fi spot plugged into it. A couple other things are plugged in over there. I think Tia's laptop is plugged in over there. And it also on the end does not have USB on it, but on the end it has the coax connectors. So that protects the modem from surges of the cable line. So the way that works is the cable cord that comes into the house goes in, you screw it into one of the coaxes on the end of this, and then you connect the modem directly to the other one. That way, if there's a surge up the line, it should get shut down right there at the power strip instead of surging up the cable cord and going into your modem and frying that, and then now you're trying to go buy a new modem. Because I actually have my own modem in my house. It's not covered by anybody's insurance.
Right.
And then I just bought a power strip to go over here where my desk is, because I moved my desk across the room from where that power strip is now. So I had to get another one to go up under here because, again, laptops, I don't need to look. I'm concerned enough about the fucking motherboard in here possibly going flaky. I really don't want to surge. And we get those, right, where we get the flickers or the power will go out and come back on, go out and come back on very briefly. And that's the reason that I have so much surge protection everywhere. This power strip I bought is a Belkin. And what's interesting about this one is it has 10 outlets on it. It has 6 that run down in your normal sort of, power strip layout, just right, next to each other. Wait a minute. Yeah. No, it has 12. Excuse me. 12 outlets. So it has 6 that run in your normal power strip configuration. And then on either side of that, so if you think about how a normal power strip looks, the outlets are just going straight down on the line. Well, if you add a space above and a space below that, if you're holding it horizontally so that it's going left to right, above it, it has 3 outlets that are turned differently and have a lot of space between them for your bigger, wall blocks that you have to plug in.
MacBook Pro chargers. Oh.
Yep. And then up under it, it has 3 additional ones that also have that same sort of spacing. So you basically have 6 normal lined up outlets, and then you have on either side of it 3 outlets that have a lot of space between them so that you can plug in the bigger blocks that you need to plug in. It also has coax on the end of it, which I don't need because it's all the way over here and it's not over there. And this one came with some stuff that I did not actually know it had when I bought it, which is Ethernet. So I can plug in like the Ethernet that's coming from the router and then plug in an Ethernet cable to go into the computer. Because of how I reorganized my cables, that actually came in handy. I didn't have to buy a longer Ethernet cord than the one that I was using. I just actually used the surge protected situation. Has phone line protection, so I guess for like your phone or whatever, and it also has the coax on the end. Pretty nice. Cost me about $25 on Amazon.
And that's the thing. They're not that expensive. They're a hell of a lot cheaper than your deductible for your renter's insurance to replace your electronics. And it doesn't need to be said, but that's a lot cheaper than having to buy new electronics that are fried in a surge experience. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be power going on or out. Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't even necessarily have to be power going on or off, but let's say you have a lightning storm and lightning hits a line like near your house. Like that's something that you have no control over, and spending the spare money. I mean, really that's what it is it's $25. That's money that you can find to be able to make it happen so your electronics are protected. And I'm going to go look at the single outlet. I wasn't going to pull Amazon up, but I probably will when we get off this call, because it has me concerned, and it's not something I want to deal with because I don't have a spare $500 sitting around. I just bought an iPhone. So
yeah, there's a car.
Yeah. Don't remind me. Those who don't know, we just got a brand new Jeep Compass with a 7-inch touchscreen that is completely inaccessible. But
isn't that nice?
But there are USB ports throughout the car, and I told Mallory as I pulled a thumb drive out of my pocket, I said, "Well, let me upgrade the firmware in your car real quick." She did not like that idea.
Well, hey, maybe it'll stop, just randomly turning itself off though at the light.
Haven't had that issue since that one day.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
That could have been your way in right there. Like, look, I guarantee that won't happen.
Might not start again, but
it won't randomly turn off though. But yeah, I agree with you, Mike, and that is the reason that I invest the money in it. And look, any kind of surge protection. Look at the jewels, like dude. we will link to, I will find an article for certain that help kind of explain what levels of protection you can expect out of a thing based off the joules. Usually you'll see something like 4,000 joules or, something like that, depending on the device and what it's supposed to do. But any amount of money that you can invest into a surge protector, is infinitely less expensive than having to replace said device or pay an insurance premium to replace when you file a claim with the insurance provider. So, not just the expense of replacing said device, but there's also that downtime, right? Like if Mike's washer would have been screwed this morning, like he was do, like how long does he have to wait to get a new washer?
And in these day and times, do you really want to go to a laundromat? Like, no, I don't.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Hell, I don't want to go to one if it ain't cold.
Right? Yeah. No, thank you.
Some of the places I've lived that had laundromats either in the complex or close by where I live. Like, look, there's things that go down in there that you can't talk about either.
No. So on that note, you can follow him on Twitter at Damashe, Damashe. I'm at Payown, Payown, and show notes can be found at
yourownpay.com/DM67.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.